Here's how I teach my kids spelling words so that they actually remember them next week. I'm sure we've all been there. We give our kids a spelling test. They practice the words all week long. They take the test. They get 100%, maybe even a 90% on the test. And then next week, you're reading a book or working on some words, and there's a word from their spelling test. And suddenly the student doesn't know what that word is. This can be really frustrating, but it helps if you understand how our brains store words, because that makes all the difference. So when we try to get kids to memorize words, it can take hundreds of repetitions before those words are stored. And even when they're stored, if it's through memorization, they can be forgotten. So when we give kids a spelling test and they're practicing these words all week long, they're just not getting enough repetitions in order to permanently store that word. So what can we do about this? I'm going to share my top 2 ways to change what you're currently doing with your spelling test so that kids can permanently store these words after the spelling test is over. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that your spelling list of words is connected to the phonics skill that you're teaching. So many times when I was giving spelling tests, I had a random list of words that really didn't have anything to do with anything. This is not the most effective way for us to teach these words. So now I make sure that the words that my students have for spelling are related to that phonics pattern that we're working on for the week. And I give a separate list for practice, and the practice words are different from the words that are going to be on our spelling test. This ensures that the students are really just working on the skill and not memorizing words. Because again, remember that memorizing words is not effective or an efficient way to learn. So here's an example. If I am working on the vowel team EA in our phonics lessons, I'm going to give my students this practice list with these EA words. Then when it comes time to give the assessment, and I like to call them word building challenges with the kids rather than a test, because as you may know, the word test can sometimes inflict some anxiety on some of our kids. So when it comes time for these word building challenges, I use different words with this same phonics pattern. The other thing that I've changed is how my students practice these words. So now I have my students mapping out the words rather than memorizing them. And by mapping, I mean they are matching sounds to symbols. So they are saying the word, they are breaking it apart, they are spelling each sound, and then they're blending those sounds back together in order to read the word. I send home these practice pages with the sound boxes so that parents can also practice with their students in the same way. When we teach words by having kids match sounds to symbols, we are aligning with how our brains read. And this process and this strategy promotes what's called orthographic mapping. And orthographic mapping is just a fancy term, and it just means the process that our brains use in order to permanently store words. So by matching sounds to symbols, we're promoting the orthographic mapping process, and these words are able to be stored permanently. If students have the foundational skills they need in order to map words this way, then it usually only takes a couple repetitions before these words are permanently stored and students can read them when they see them. When I actually give the word building challenges, I do want my students to say the word, break apart the sounds, and then spell each sound. Again, this is how our brains read. You can choose whatever words you want that are aligned with your phonics skills that you're teaching. If you want some pre-made lists, I will go ahead and link my word building challenges that are pre-made for you to save you time coming up with the words on your own. I hope you found this information helpful, and I'll see you next time.